Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna dig deeper to our tutorials. We're gonna look at the Dplyr package. Yeah, so before we begin, kindly subscribe and you realize that this is more educative. Now, let's understand what we're going to do today. We're going to look at grouping by and summarizing of data. We're going to also to look at how you can add new variables, and then we also look at selecting a different set of columns in your data set and filtering out data, and you can sort it in various ways. So first here we're going to work with this data. This is the data we're going to work. It has the county code, the county, the former province where the county was, and the population. This population actually is a real-time population, which is the 2019 census Kenya. These are the 2019 census Kenya by population. So if you have Mombasa, these are the figures of the population as at 2019. So now that you've seen how our data looks like, let's get back to R. So as I said in the previous tutorials, it's good to start by making use of comments so that someone else might be able to understand what you mean in your script. So first here we need to load the packages. So we need the Dplyr package, the Dplyr package, and because we're also going to read from our data Excel. Let's go and navigate where we have. Actually, it is in my desktop. It is in my desktop. Yeah, this is what I'm going to use. Okay, so if I say import dataset, just want you to look at this, the code we are going to use. Okay, so you read, you put. So because I don't like just typing the entire path, you can actually come and put dataset, and in the code preview there, you can look at the path and then you can copy it, and then you can also come and put it there. Okay. Oh, first we need to load the required package for reading R, which is cerebrally. Apologies for that. Cerebrally read R. This one we are going, because my data set is in CSV format. Good. Now we're going to get our data, right? We're going to get our data. I remember the code. So this is where I'm reading using this function, read CSV in desktop, the folder read R. We want to import this country.csv. So I want to name my data set. I can name it like data set. I just name it like that. So, and then I can view our data set. I see how it looks like. Okay, so before we run this code, remember, as I said in R, if I put my cursor here and say run, it only run that single line. So let us first run everything and see what we see here. Good. So here, I want you to see what happens down here, and then the new tab that has actually opened. So whatever happens down here is that we are ready to see some column specification of what we have in our dataset, because after loading these packages, then we get our data from where it is located and then assign it a variable dataset. So going forward, we're going to work with dataset because this is now where our data is. So when we view the dataset here, this is what our data entails. You see, this is the same file that we previewed earlier in Excel. Good. Now let's continue. After looking at that, we now start to understand, because here these are population. We have the county, province, former province where the county was, and the population. Okay, remember this is 2019 population we're working with. Okay, so I want to calculate total population. Total population, okay? Total population, like in the country, from all those counties. So here I want to introduce to the summarize function and see what you can do with it. So I'm gonna call my variable. I'm gonna just call my variable like a total population, like that, and then I want to summarize it. Okay. Now here I have to use the data set that I want to summarize from, of which mine is called dataset, and then or I can just name it like my data, so that it doesn't confuse you. So it doesn't confuse you like that. Yeah, let's work with my data. Okay, good. So I want to summarize my data. The data set is my data, and then I want to summarize the total population. Now this you have it, because I want to sum population from the population. You see, from this column where we have the population per county, I want to sum these, then summarize it into that. We'll see what happens in a minute, like that. So when I run these, should be able to perform that. So you see here in the global environment, we see a data set has been created, total population, which contains one object and one variable. One object actually is one column, one row. Let us look at what, if you want to call upon the total population, we can actually do that and try to see what it entails. Here you see we have 47,564,286. Now this is the total population in that particular year 2019, the Kenyan census. So here you can say here this is calling or viewing. This is another way of viewing actually. You can say view the total population, because if you just write just like that, this is what you get, you view. All right, rather if you want also to do, maybe you want to view like this, then you come total population like that, then you run that code. You see it contains one row, one column, one row. Okay, good. Now we also want to see if we want maybe to group this data by something and see how what you can achieve by that. So we want to look at how you can do group by. Here now we want to maybe group by province. For instance, let's group by province. So I can say we want the total population, but in this case for province, let me call it, let my variable be like that. So I also want to introduce something called as piping. We'll see in a minute what piping does. So I want to start with my data set, which is my data. You see, when I start typing, there's a suggestion. I can use it by pressing tab to complete. Then we want to use the percent, this sign percent. Okay, and then after that you can now press enter into the new line, and then now we want to start by grouping by. Now what do we want to group by? Okay, we want to group by the column that contains whatever we want to group by. So that is the former. There's a column that contains the former province. You realize that when I type, even before completing, there is suggestion. This because R has already read my data and it holds all my column and names and variables. so that they're just somewhere there. So whenever I try to write something, R gives me a suggestion and I can use that. So here we want to group by the former province. So pipe, now this is piping, and then we continue piping. Piping is like we want to like summarize deeper. We want to keep on summarizing from maybe this to this. You'll see in a minute what it does so that you can understand what happens. Now then we summarize by total population province. We also want to again sum the population. Okay, good. And then down here, from what we have learned there, we can call upon the total, or let's view so that you get the sense of it. You can call the total population province and see the population per province. So let's first run this code and see what we have. So after running that, we already see we have 8 rows and 2 columns here. So if we run the column of view, we see we have now classified according to province and population. I want you to remember that this was our data. You see we have provinces which are duplicates here. So what happens, it takes this province, summarizes this province, and then we get the total population in that province. Okay, yeah, now this is what has happened. For example, if it's coast, this is what we have. Central this, eastern this, Nairobi this. That is what has happened. That is how you can use group by. Now here we also want, let's do an introduction to select. You want to select from a column. Yeah, and maybe you want only specific data. Okay, so here we can say we only want data from the county. We don't want the province. So let me say my data, but I can call it county. My data for county. So we start by working here. Remember, we are always working whenever we want to summarize data. We always have to work with our initial data so that we get the results that we want. That is very important to remember that. So we want to pipe down. Piping is like summarize deeper, and then we select. Now we select the columns we want. In this case, I can say I want county, and then I also want population. So these are the only columns I want to summarize. Then we have to view. Let us view my data county. So first let's run this code, and then you see after running the code, we have it automatically adds here in my data county. Here, as you have seen, it has 47 rows and two columns. Now let us view that. You see, so here I only have the county and the population per county. Okay, what else? What if you want to add maybe a new, let's say you want to add a new column to our data. This column, maybe you want to do something with a certain column, and then add another column on that. So this I can call it like to mutate. Okay, to mutate, which I can say this is to add a new variable. Okay, to add a new variable to your data. Let me just give it that rough name. Now let's create a new data set and call it maybe my data 2, right? Apologies for that. Yeah, let me call it my data 2. So we want to start working on that. So let's break down our data. So remember, just piping is to break down further, and then now let's mutate. I also want you to keep note of the syntax and how you're going to do that. So what are we going to mutate here? Let's say you want to say population population divided by, let's say, 100. That means we want to create a column whereby the population column and it's further divided by 100. Okay, so what is the formula? The formula is this: we want to divide our population by 100. Okay, and then yes, let us view my data too. We see what we have there, right? Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause and go back so that you can understand what is happening. Okay, so another thing, whenever I put maybe my cursor here on the comment section, when I press run, instead of running maybe the only the same line, it actually runs whatever it's beneath the the what do you call it, the comments here. So let me run that. Then I also view. So after running that, we see what let's see what my data 2 looks like. My data 2 here, we also have 47 rows and 5 variables. In this case we have 5 variables. Let's view and see what it looks like. So in this case we have Mombasa County. So here we have added another column whereby we have broken down this population into this. So this is like whatever is here divided by 100, you get this. So we can further break down whatever figures depending on how your data is to get a certain figure, right? So yeah, now that is a sample of how you can work with Dplyr. And let's say you also want to filter. Let me also add something here. I want to filter my data into maybe unexpected. So if you come back and view here my data, this is the original. So I see here provinces. What if I want only maybe coast province, or I want northeastern, or I want eastern? So an example, let me say I only want coast province. So what do you do? Filtering. Okay, here you have to create a data. Let's say we want let me say my cost data. I can say from my data set, my original data set, I want to break down and then filter. I want to filter the former province because that is the column where I want to filter the former province, the exact cost. This is what I want it to look like. And then I can go and then view my cost data. Okay, so let me run that line of code and then view it, and then you see how it looks. Good. Now here you see that when I filter the province to cost, it only it brings me only the values of cost. So what if I want to maybe come down here and say I want to filter maybe to, instead of I can say like this, my Nyanza. Let's say my Nyanza. I want to look at my Nyanza. Call it like my Nyanza data. It's important to see how you're using the piping here. I want you to look at how you're using the piping here, the structure and the syntax. So, and then you practice on that. Once you practice on that, you get to perfect it, and you get to actually write your script with an analytical mind. Okay, so by now I'm sure if you've been following up these videos, I'm sure you've been able to learn a couple of issues here, especially in our Excel tutorials. And now when you're diving into the advanced stages of R, you can also see how you can use these to manipulate your data. So let us now filter from the former province. We want to filter for Nyanza, okay? And then I also want to look at my, oops, apologies for that. I also now want to come and view, now my Nyanza. Let us view my Nyanza data. We see what is. Now before we view that, we have to run this line of code. So here we don't, here you can say my, you can come and put a comment and say Nyanza data. Okay, here I could have said cost data so that it is clean, right? So let me run my Nyanza data and then let me view it. So you see here, if I view the provinces Nyanza, I also get a summary of the counties and populations that the former province was Nyanza. Now, I believe this is really good and you're really getting something. Now here you can, from here you can see that from our main data set, we had my data. From my data, we have broken down into various categories of data. You see, from the first, so let me say if I close everything here, close everything like that, I come and clean this, okay, and also there's something I want you to look at. Now let me say I've been writing my script and I'm done. So I have to select everything there and then run it. Do you realize how fast it was for R to actually finish this? And R can perform this speed whenever even you have a million rows of data, because it is quite effective as compared to working with Excel. If you're working with Excel, it could be processing further depending on the processing power of your machine. But you see, I've written my script, my R script, and then after I'm done, I just run everything, and it's according to how I've categorized my data. It's split them to various summaries here. So in the next lesson, we're going to learn on how we can now write these data sets, these summaries of data set into final outputs, so that for example, if you had your data, this is the initial source of your data, and then from your data I wanted to know the total population. Here I get it, and then from the total population, now from my data I want to know the total population per province. Here it is. Then I also want to know maybe population per county. Then maybe I go ahead and say now I want to add on the column here. Yeah, you can see this one is filtering for cost and Nyanza here. So I believe you learned something today. So kindly, if you haven't subscribed, do so, and let's keep on interacting as we get to learn something and improve your analytical mind. Till next time, goodbye.